Hello traders, welcome to the weekly outlook and setups volume 260. As always, you know what we're gonna do, dive straight into the market, see how it developed this week, what kind of setups we had, and most importantly, what we can expect in the incoming week right now with CPI out of the way and with some choppiness in the first 2 weeks of October. Right now it's about to get good, so let's get into it. As always, we're gonna get started with the economic calendar, try to frame our trading week. So Monday is absolutely not tradable as usual. Sometimes it's tradable, but if you have a bank holiday on Monday, absolutely not. This means that Tuesday then is going to take the role of Monday potentially, but it's very likely going to start moving. We don't really have any USD news. We have some Canadian CPI, so for cat traders, watch out for that. Wednesday, also no USD news. We have GBP and NZD CPI. So if you're an NZD or GBP trader, watch out here as well. We're having CPIs right now for the rest of the countries. We had CPI for the USD last week. Right now we're having CAD, NZD, GBP. Do we have Euro? No. Then again on Thursday looks like to be the volatile day once again. Now a very key highlight, especially if you're a Euro USD trader, is the monetary policy statement here for the Euro, expecting to cut the rate by 25 basis points once again, which is nice, which is good. But let's see if that of course happens. That will definitely give a lot of volatility to the market. And then following that, we have the first kind of USD news for the week on Thursday, right? Press conference for the ECB, and then on Friday again no USD news. We just have these building permits, which is not really volatile, and some retail sales for the pound. So it looks like it's kind of a nice week. There is like nothing very big to be worried about. There is no like CPI or Fed rate to be awaiting. Now of course it's very key to wait for the euro here, but that is only for the euro. But not having USD news on any of the days apart from Thursday makes me a little bit worried about Tuesday and Wednesday. How much can they actually move? But they definitely could. So for myself, looking at the economic calendar, I am going to be showing up every day starting from Tuesday all the way until Friday, and of course seeing what we get without really worrying about anything. Just gonna be a little bit more careful on Thursday. And just real quick, I want to invite you to our Trading Fanatics community in the school platform. We are right now 2,500 members. We're getting some amazing publications here, but not to mention that the classroom, once again, this is a completely full course that teaches you strategy from start to finish. So make sure to join. Link is in the description. All right, let's get rolling with the DXY. Now, my first thing that I start on the monthly time frame once again is this monthly bearish imbalance. Now, what I spoke about with my private members this week is that, again, depending on your zone, whatever zones you're using, like is it support and resistance, is it the imbalances, is it demand or supply, whatever it is, you always have to observe the time frame that they are on. For example, right now I use imbalances for points of interest, for entries, for everything as well. And that one is a monthly one. So usually the market is going to spend 2 to 3 candles inside these zones, okay? So I would not necessarily right now start expecting this month to already start reversing, okay? So we're having a lot of bearish pressure potentially from here, but what you can see right now is that on the weekly time frame, we are right now printing a weekly bullish one, which prints the supply and demand sandwich. This is a concept that we use a lot within my private community as well. We use it for entry models, we use it for macro analysis, for everything. So pretty much right now, we're gonna start getting some struggle. Okay, we're gonna start getting some struggle. Monthly is bearish, but the weekly is showing us bullishness. Okay, so this weekly zone for next week is going to be absolutely key for the DXY, and we just have to wait and see what it's gonna do. Is it going to tap and continue? Then of course I'm gonna start going long. Is gonna tap, maybe react, and then start showing us bearish signs. Then of course we're gonna go short. So that's pretty much it. But keep in mind, this is a weekly zone, so we might as well actually tap inside here and spend the week there. Maybe just have a bearish candle inside that weekly zone. So again, not really rushing my hopes, not really trying to forecast too much, but then dropping onto the daily time frame, there was one trade this week, but I was looking to trade it on Euro USD and it was absolutely choppy. So Monday chopped exactly as we outlined. We wanted to see that daily imbalance. The market then tapped on Tuesday, and then Wednesday expanded, and that's it. That's it. The only trade that I saw this week was on Wednesday. I didn't trade this week at all because also on Euro USD it was absolutely choppy. So currently, again, you can see like we're having weekly bullish and we're also having that daily bullish that could potentially cause the market to continue a little bit higher. Now, the next potential zone that I think the market could really react is this weekly zone. So we're starting to have a lot of zones here, okay? Now that is a weekly reaction area. We're also tapping into that monthly zone that the market can still eventually reverse from. Weekly is bullish, daily is bullish. It is a little bit confusing. It is honestly a little bit confusing. So I would say, for example, if this daily zone holds, that could potentially be a very nice target right here. But if that daily zone does not hold, for example, reacts, then you can start trading into the weekly. So those are going to be my short-term setups that I could potentially be looking to trade. But of course, there is also the other thing that the market could follow through, and maybe it can continue all the way towards that weekly zone. Okay, or maybe it can take out this high and then maybe it could start reversing once again into that weekly zone. So again, guys, it's all about the flow. It's all about the flow. This is why I really stopped forecasting at all within my own trading. I just jump in the morning or jump within my session. Okay, what's going on right now? What can I do about it? If I don't see anything, I just close the charts. Okay, so that is the daily, and then we drop to the 40 time frame, which is again where we're gonna stop, and we're gonna potentially again go back to the daily. The 40 time frame closed in a very choppy manner here since Wednesday. So since we made the move on Wednesday, Thursday and Friday, absolute chop. Here also the start of the week, absolute chop, move up, absolute chop. So right now again, just gonna stay on the daily, gonna wait for that one to tap. If it doesn't tap, I don't care, but if it taps, potential longs. If it taps, reacts and fails, potential shorts into that weekly. So that's the DXY, not an 100% bias. We're having a lot of zones to work with. So again, be careful and really wait for good setup and really wait for the market to really shout at you, hey, I'm a good setup, take me, because I haven't seen such a setup in a long time. With the confusion on the DXY, EUR/USD is probably going to be the same. Now, once again, tapping into that monthly bullish imbalance, of course. Now, the monthly candle is still printing, but guess what? It can come in into the last week, and it can, of course, shift to the upside, and that could become a very big rejection. And then we can say, okay, the monthly imbalance is holding, okay? So this imbalance is going to take some time for the market to potentially react from. And what I also don't like, once again, similar to the DXY, is we're starting to get some opposing signs in the form of that weekly bearish imbalance that right now suggests potential momentum. And even if you look at the good old structure, we took out that high, and then of course, then your trend change becomes here. So we're actually starting to see some bearish signs on the euro. Let's see if it's gonna follow through. To me, right now, once again, a very good macro setup will be for us to pull back into that weekly to see if it's gonna hold and then start pushing lower. But if it then doesn't hold, then of course we're gonna know that the monthly imbalance is starting to prevail. Okay, so this is a very key area because this is going to determine right now whether the market is gonna go lower or whether the market is gonna tap, react, break, and then it's gonna go higher. Okay, so we just gotta wait a little bit. Similar to the DXY, we're having also a daily zone to work with. Maybe for early in the week, we really have to see how the market is going to react to that daily zone, because this then daily zone is going to determine whether the weekly zone is going to get tapped. Because again, if the daily holds and pushes price lower, there is a chance that it just might continue. But again, if the daily taps and doesn't hold, then that is going to mean you can take a long into the weekly. And then as this weekly taps, then of course we have to just wait and see, okay, what's going on? What's gonna happen? Are we gonna reverse? Are we gonna like continue breaking higher? At this moment, those are potentially my two outlooks. Again, this looks like a very clear target. That is gonna be our previous weekly low as well. That weekly bearish imbalance also looks very good, very nicely for it to potentially be tapped. The next kind of liquidity point that I could also outline is this daily swing low here. Could the market tap and then reach for that daily swing low and then start pulling back? Will the market immediately start pulling back to the weekly? We just do not know. Okay, we do not know. So I am overall inclining towards bearishness on EUR/USD and also bullishness on the DXY because this is what price has been showing me so far. But if I, of course, start seeing the bullish order flow and that weekly imbalance potentially failing into the next week and then even the week after, then that could open up again new highs. Now for the euro, it does not make sense to go long. Honestly, if we just go back very quickly to the interest rate differentials, you can see the USD is at 5% and the euro is at 3.65, potentially to be cut at 3.40. So that is bearish. That is bearish for the EUR/USD. So I have a feeling that eventually the DXY could go up and EUR/USD could go down. So in terms of the macro bias, I am bearish. The question is, where are we going to go short from two zones right now, this daily and this hourly and this weekly, sorry, and I'm not gonna go to the hourly because it's quite choppy. Okay, so that's my overview for EURUSD. Let's see how it goes. Next on the list is GU. Now the monthly candle is so far bearish, which was formed pretty much last week. You can see this week it was a very consolidative week. It was very choppy. For the first time on GU, I'm seeing an extremely choppy week. Right now we can potentially target that low. We're getting very close to that low. You can see here right now we are absolutely fading that weekly bullish. The market kind of pushed with this candle, but of course the next candle could have still popped up, but it did not. It actually made the weekly bearish, so pretty much reversing that weekly bullish imbalance, turning it into bearish. This is my target right now. It actually looks good. But then we drop to the daily time frame, and you can see it was absolute disaster this week on GU. Like Monday a little bit bearish, chop, bearish, taking the low. Friday is an inside day. I would really much prefer for us to pull back into the weekly and then look for a short down there. That will be an absolutely perfect setup. Is it gonna happen? We don't know. Then if we drop to the 40 time frame, ew, brother, what is this? So crazy, okay? Now this one could just reach first for the liquidity. So another situation that we could expect is for it to reach for the liquidity, and then potentially pull back into the weekly. So those are my two main outcomes, okay? Now, I'm not going to trade this short, even if it provides, because there is absolutely no reason. There is no zone to potentially trade it short from. But I will absolutely trade this short if it pulls back into the weekly, and then it starts going down towards that liquidity target. Now, is there something to the left that we can potentially target? Well, pretty much the next thing is going to be that weekly zone that we can potentially target. And I see on the daily there are a few, for example, here imbalances to the left. That right there is another one just before the weekly. So these are some targets that we can potentially target. Now I would imagine the market could take liquidity, tap into that daily, start reacting into the weekly, and then head into that weekly here. Now those are very big forecasts that 100% might not happen, okay? But I'm just trying to plan and play all the potential scenarios so that when something comes, I am prepared, okay? This is my outlook on GBP USD, also bearish. I would actually say this one is even more bearish than EU because it does not have a monthly bullish imbalance. It's failing the weekly bullish here, and it's printing a weekly bearish, and it overall looks quite bearish. So if we can come back into that weekly, it's gonna be a very nice short, potentially. Okay, so don't take it as a fact. Let's check out Aussie dollar. Again, bearish month. So far, an inside bar of the previous month. Dropping onto the weekly time frame. Now again here we're still kind of inside that weekly zone for the second candle. Doesn't look like we really want to hold. Now we really haven't closed below the low of that imbalance, which still has some juice to maybe turn the market around. And yeah, so here we don't have a weekly bearish like we have on the EU and GU. And on the daily time frame we have so many, like we're having this massive push down that didn't really, personally for me, didn't really give me any entries. Like the market has been strange, right? Some pairs are pushing without giving entries, other pairs are chopping like crazy. There are some hidden pairs, like for example USD JPY that moved very nice this week, but apart from that, nothing really. So the only thing to work with right now are those daily zones, because as I start going on to the 40 time frame, it is a mess. It's a very big mess. So I haven't touched any Forex pairs this week because they were all a very big mess, but I crushed the futures. So let's see. Again, I have no forecast on this one even. I would love for it to pull back into that daily and then potentially from there see what's gonna happen. Like not necessarily short it, because we can come into that daily very bullish on the hourly. And yeah, so far the hourly is definitely not bullish. It's just a very nice consolidation here at the bottom. I am not bearish, I'm not bullish. So again, on Aussie dollar, I would just wait. I would just wait for something clear. After this massive push down without any sort of pullbacks, it's kind of strange, but currently it's starting to reverse probably from this base candle here. I don't know, okay? I don't know about Aussie dollar. It's not very clear to me. I would again prefer shorts just based on that momentum. There is still, as I said, juice left within that weekly bullish imbalance. It can still turn around. For me, a good confluence for it turning around will be to actually not make a bearish imbalance, because right now you can see we have candle 1, candle 2, and then potentially candle 3 can still make a weekly bearish imbalance if we open and if we start pushing down. That is going to be very bearish, and then maybe I'm going to start targeting the low. But as long as right now we start popping higher, maybe longs can kick in. But again, for now, it is absolutely not clear. This is the only zone that I can work with, and that is usually not good if you don't have anything on the voyage. So I'm gonna wait. I remember from the last weekly outlook, NZUSD was a lot more bearish than AU. So we're having a very massive monthly candle already. And you can see here the difference between AU and NU. NU is making a weekly bearish imbalance. It is already breaking that target. We probably forecasted this one in the previous outlook. Well, this one is still inside the weekly bullish. All right, this one already forgot about that and it's already printing a bearish one. So right now, as we're taking this weekly liquidity, I would definitely love to see a weekly pullback as well. Or a daily. Do we have a daily? Well, yeah, we do have a daily. So if this daily doesn't hold, then it's going to be the weekly. So that is quite clear. So NZUSD is giving me cleaner vibes. It's giving me better price action. Okay. So right now the market is tapping into that daily zone. So if on Monday and Tuesday we don't start rolling down, we're very likely just going to react and then start printing bullish order flow towards the weekly. That will be a lovely setup because then from that weekly into the incoming weeks, we could potentially start looking for the shorts. Okay. Now, in this case, I think we had a look at this fall imbalance on the last weekly outlook. It just tapped it on Monday at midnight, and then since then it just flushed. It's still in a very choppy manner. Okay, then came Wednesday during Asia once again. It dropped and then it started consolidating. Now, on the 4-hourly time frame, once again, we don't really have anything. I see here we have a reaction area. Okay. And you can see the daily time frame is we're starting to already see signs on the voyage that this daily doesn't want to hold. We tapped it, we reacted, we kind of broke it here. Right now we're tapping into this forward zone. So if we on market open or like on Tuesday maybe, if we start breaking even above these highs here, okay, then I would say all the way until this high, which is pretty much that weekly imbalance open. I think we can just run and potentially tap there. So if I have something like that, maybe a reaction right now, then a break, maybe even a forwardly bullish imbalance, that will be very nice for us to go long. Okay, so this is my bias on NZUSD. I am looking for counter trend pullbacks right now. So again, if the market fails this forwardly, if the market fails this daily, only then I'm gonna look for the weekly. But if right now we start flipping, let's say Monday is actually a pretty nice bearish candle like that, then I'm gonna target the low. Okay, so I have two targets, this low or this high here, which is the weekly imbalance. I will just wait for the 4-hourly, I will just wait for the 1-hourly time frame to show me signs about where the market wants to go, and then I'm just gonna flow with it. All right, that's pretty much how I trade. I have specific targets, I have specific levels, and then I just allow for the market to tell me, okay, which one do you actually want to go to? All right, let's have a look at Mr. Goat. So on the monthly time frame, we are still a small candle, so nothing much has happened there. But a very important thing happened this week. We actually pulled back into the weekly bullish imbalance here, and we're printing a very nice rejection that could very nicely also take us into the all-time highs, or at least, for example, this high right here. So then dropping onto the daily time frame, what we're starting to see once again. So here was the supply and demand sandwich situation. Daily coming very bearish into the weekly, but then you can see we have this candle tapping in, and then right now the next candle invalidating it. So I would say gold is looking very nicely long. All right, not gonna lie, it looks very good for longs. It also has like this daily bullish imbalance to potentially support that idea for going long, but it's probably gonna run towards these highs very fast on the daily because there is just liquidity here. There is nothing else to counteract it. So again, yeah, this is where we tapped that daily, we reacted, then we started breaking higher. This here was a nice zone to trade on Friday, but the market didn't really want to pull back into it, and then we just expanded higher. And right now we have this very tiny zone that we could still potentially work on. We ended up the week by taking that liquidity point here, that swing high. We gave a little bit of a pullback. So I would just say I am long bias on gold. That's what I'm going to say. Now, how is it going to develop? Is Monday going to consolidate once again? So just print like a regular candle like that. And then that regular candle becoming a potential, let me draw it for you, becoming a potential imbalance like that on the daily. Oh, come on, there it is. And then from there, it could be a very nice tap and expansion higher. That would be absolutely lovely. Okay, so this is what I'm actually going to be looking for. Because I see we had a very nice expansion on Friday, maybe Monday to consolidate, make a new daily bullish imbalance, which I think it has a very high chance that it's going to make it. Why? Because in order for the market to not make it, it has to cross this line here. And if it crosses that line, well, I would start thinking that we're actually getting bearish, because it doesn't make sense to make such a massive bullish push all of a sudden to just disregard it. Okay, now the only thing that we can continue higher from on Monday and Tuesday, well, on Monday it's gonna be that hourly zone. Now Monday bank holiday, can the market tap and run for the liquidity? It could. I've seen it happen, so it could, but I would much prefer for the market to tap in and then maybe react and then consolidate, make the daily imbalance, tap in, and then potentially Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday look for the longs. Okay, that is my idea on gold. Waiting for a daily bullish imbalance, tap in, and then trade it bullish. Let's see how it goes. Let's have a look at USD JPY, which I think is the only pair that actually for me provided a very clear setup this week. Now, the thing about this one is we're having two bearish monthly imbalances. The market is tapping into the first one. It could definitely reach out for the second one as well. How would we know? By looking at the lower time frames, and what we're already seeing once again is that the weekly is becoming a little bit more bullish. Okay, now of course we're having again that sandwich situation where the market could tap in, it could continue to the other monthly, it could tap in, it could react, and then it could start turning bearish. Then the monthly is gonna hold. Those are usually the two main outcomes that I'm gonna be looking for. I prefer a little bit more on the bullish side because the DXY is overall showing me bullish signs as well. Now here again, we had that same setup within this daily bullish imbalance. We tapped in, we had a lovely move higher. The liquidity target, I had quite a couple of members actually taking the long here, even some during Asia, taking this high, and then after this high was taken, we pulled back, and then Friday also consolidated. So currently we don't have much to work with apart from that weekly bullish imbalance. Because as I start dropping onto the hourly time frame, you're going to start seeing that it's not the best. Okay, now we have that little thing here, but would I really trade from this? Not really. You can see it's an overall, again, it started consolidating once again. It was very choppy, but when it started going, it went very nicely. There was, again, one of my members took this final trade towards that weekly high here to the left. That was pretty nice. Currently, I wouldn't really trust that hourly zone, but we also don't have anything on daily, which is tricky. So this one can do a lot of things. Let's say that even this hourly time frame holds and it starts expanding higher. Well, then if I start seeing expansions higher, I'm just going to target that zone. So if the hourly time frame right now starts making bullish imbalances, bullish breaks of structure, I'm going to target the monthly and go long. But if we start getting some bearish signs right now, maybe even some hourly bearish imbalances, I'm going to trade towards that weekly. And then from that weekly, of course, we have to evaluate, is the market going to start pushing higher, or is the market going to potentially just react, consolidate, and then start breaking lower and maybe shift bearish overall from that monthly zone. Okay, so that is the plan for USD JPY. It is not predetermined. We really have to wait to see how Monday is going to play out, how Tuesday potentially can start looking like. But again, the key is wait to see which direction it's going to take. Is it going to start taking the bullish direction, targeting this one, or is it going to take the bearish direction, targeting that one? Okay, that's USD JPY. Quite simple. You're just going to give it some time to give you some information about where it wants to go. Euro JPY is slowly making its way towards that monthly bearish imbalance. On the weekly time frame, it doesn't really have any imbalances. It was an absolutely slow week as well. Now, I really actually want to drop the JPYs from this analysis in order to make it simpler. I know a couple of guys are actually watching this, but I never trade these ones. I never even look at them. So yeah, well, we had, for example, this daily zone here, but that was last week. And then this week, absolute chop. So nothing to really speak about this week. We took out the previous weekly high and then we dropped to the 40 time frame, and it's a very big consolidation. So I wouldn't really touch it because in situations like this is where you start taking losses potentially. The market makes a move down, you think that it's going to go down, and then right now the market is making a move up, you think that it's going to go up, and then it could start going down again. I don't know. I mean, to me, this monthly zone could be a very nice target. So if you manage to find some sort of longs towards that, that would be great. It is also could be supported by the USD JPY also going a little bit higher. But to me right now, EJ and also GJ are just not tradable. There are a lot better instruments to focus on. These ones usually work great at very specific times when USD JPY is also going and when Euro USD in this case is maybe chopping. So this one moves a little bit better. Okay, so that's EJ. I have bullish bias. How are we going to get there? I don't know. We don't really have any zones to work with. So yeah. GBP JPY also a consolidation week. We tapped into that monthly. We tried to push. We're failing to push. So right now, to me, this is the liquidity target. Weekly, we actually had a very nice weekly bullish imbalance here from last week that very nicely followed through. I would have absolutely expected this week to potentially take out that high, but we had a very nasty consolidation, which again doesn't give us any information. I'm still gonna target that high, but again, staying so close to that high and not taking it, it's very sketchy. And yeah, so similar price action here, right? It looks very bullish, then it gets bearish. It looks very bullish, then it starts getting bearish. Bullish, bearish, bullish, right? It's starting to squeeze as well. We're starting to build that triangle formation as well, which is never a good sign if you actually want to take any high probability trade. So yeah, I could tell you right now, well, I could potentially, like, we have like a few imbalances here, like these two zones. I could potentially look for something like that, but again, it's not high probability market right now, especially during this choppiness. USD JPY is a lot better, okay, but if we're trading EJ and GJ, as I keep saying, there are very specific conditions at which those two pairs are working, which is why I never look at them, because a lot of times they're just potentially a waste of time and even a waste of capital, because when they start chopping like that, it can be very frustrating. Yes, there are times at which they move, but then they move, they start chopping again, then they move, they chop again. So not very consistent. So that's my 2 cents on those JPYs. All right, welcome to the futures part, starting with ES. Now we're making all-time highs once again this week. We're very nicely following through from that weekly bullish imbalance. As we outlined last week, the market made a very nice weekly low here. It didn't really come to sweep the previous weekly low, and then it just expanded very nicely, taking the all-time highs. So right now it gets a little bit tricky, okay? Now, usually with all-time highs, it is always tricky because the market could start pulling back very heavily. It could start consolidating. Well, not always it consolidates at all-time highs. But for example, here, that was all-time highs. It took it, it pulled back, and then it started expanding again. So we can, at all times, start expecting some sort of a consolidation, okay? Of course, the market can keep expanding higher because with indices, you just never know, right? They're very surprising. I still can't get used to the incredible volatility and the incredible moves because I'm coming from Forex, of years of trading Forex, which if you expect too much from price there, you get slapped, right? But here, like, you see the market rocket and then you think like, nah, it can't rocket anymore, and then it just whoop, massively pushes once again. So we're taking all-time highs. We're having this daily bullish imbalance to work with. Friday also finished very bullish, so we're getting a little bit high. I would say we're getting a little bit higher, but we still have zones to work with. We're still closed with this forward imbalance. Then we have this one below, all right? We're having this overall very big area that could act as your like base. Could be not really an order block, but this whole area here is a very nice area of course, of support if the market comes back inside. So let's see. I'm just bullish. I'm just bullish until I start seeing the market starting to roll down and start making bearish structure. It just doesn't make any sense to go short. Okay, it just doesn't make any sense. These things are predestined to go up. So if you actually just only take longs on them, your win rate is probably going to be a lot higher. So let's see. I mean, coming into next week, I have to see how these forward zones are going to hold. The only reversal signal that I would look at is if we start printing a forward bearish imbalance here to then trade into the daily. That will be the short idea. But of course, if we start pulling back into these forward imbalances and if we continue building bullish structure, I would definitely keep longing. So currently, there is nothing much to take. That actually provided a nice long right here. I longed NAS, but it was a break even. This one actually ended up keep making the all-time highs on Friday. So yeah, this is my outlook on ES. Absolutely bullish. Again, we have a couple of zones to work with. This daily, that is a little bit lower, okay? And then of course, these two forwardly bullish. So waiting for Monday and Tuesday to see how they're going to play out, and then potentially trading them during the best days. Looking at NQ on the monthly time frame, it is still not pushing. So we're still having all-time highs, waiting very nicely for us, while ES and YM are already taking them. So currently, again, we're working very nicely within that weekly bullish imbalance. But you can see, for example, the S&P took that weekly high. This one doesn't take it. So Nasdaq looks overall between all indices the weakest. That's because, of course, of its composition of those 100 companies. They seem to be a little bit weaker. But yeah, so right now you can see also the difference between NASDAQ and ES is that this one does not have a daily bullish imbalance. This one has, this one does not. So who is stronger? Well, ES is stronger, okay? But ES is also at all-time highs, which starts to get a little bit tricky, okay? So currently I'm targeting this high. Is there a way for us to get to that high? And this is where it gets a little bit tricky because there really isn't. We had this hourly bullish imbalance here. The market tapped it and very nicely fulfilled the target on Thursday. I did participate in that long. Then we pulled back again. Then we tried to push again. I was also longs yesterday trying to push towards that high. But it didn't really manage to make it. So it was a break-even trade. And I also took, I don't even remember because on futures it's a lot, but I also participated in this bullish move here on Tuesday. Also, I think, but I missed, I think, the Wednesday move, but then I participated on the Thursday move. It's just amazing. So currently, yeah, I think currently it's starting to get, you can see in the last 2 days here, it's starting to get a little bit choppy, consolidating at the top, and seeing how, for example, ES is taking all-time highs and how it could start pulling back. It also makes me think that NQ potentially can also start rolling down a little bit, because if this one was going to roll to the all-time highs, it should have done by now. I'm not sure when is the earnings season. It could be actually waiting for this one, but I'm not seeing a lot of bullish signs on NASDAQ right now. So if we eventually start popping higher and making bullish structure towards all-time highs, that would be amazing. But right now, especially coming into next week, I don't see any bullish signs left. I'm actually starting to see some indecision to first potentially start rolling lower, okay? So let's be a little bit more careful, not so much aggressive. I mean, this week was very nice, especially like since Tuesday rocketed, we had a Wednesday rocket, we even have a Thursday final move, and then Friday consolidates. So can this week potentially pull back a little bit to grab some liquidity and then shift up? That is definitely possible, but for now, we don't have any clues, so I'm gonna wait. US30 or the YM is the strongest currently. You can see the monthly candle is already expanding. The weekly candle is also the strongest, again, coming from that weekly bullish imbalance, taking all-time highs once again, actually even closing with the weekly candle above the all-time high. On the daily time frame, it has the biggest daily bullish imbalance that once again suggests it's pretty strong. There is our liquidity right now being taken, so we can start expecting a pullback. This is a very nice Friday expansion candle, so we can already start expecting a new daily bullish imbalance, which would be very nice for continuous longs. And right now, probably it's similar to ES. In fact, it's very strong. Like Friday on this one was very strong. We're having this these two hourly zones here to potentially work with. So it looks very bullish. It looks very bullish, which gives me a little bit more confidence that, for example, ES, the S&P could maybe continue popping a little bit higher. But again, all it depends for next week is how these 4-hourly zones are going to hold, and especially on US30 if we have a new daily bullish imbalance forming. Because if Monday reverses and closes that daily bullish imbalance, then we can start looking for a little bit lower prices. But if we start seeing holdings of these 4-hourly zones and maybe even starting to pop higher, it could be very nice for continuous longs. So really long bias on US30. It actually sometimes it looks the worst, but sometimes it looks the best. With futures, it's like this, but at least there are just, I'm only trading the ES and NASDAQ. They kind of move a little bit in tandem. US30 is a little bit different, but I usually don't like it a lot, and I only use it for confidence. So right now, looking at how bullish that is, that gives me overall confidence to keep longing the S&P and to also consider longing on NASDAQ, while this one is a little bit 50-50. And finally, let's check out DAX. On the monthly time frame, we printed a monthly low, and right now we're starting to turn bullish, which looks pretty good. A very nice weekly candle, potentially once again driving us into new all-time highs. Also looks very good. On the daily time frame, similar to, for example, the S&P, we're having a very tiny daily bullish imbalance. Now, is the market going to pull back right here? It doesn't make a lot of sense, especially after looking at this Friday's candle, okay? It's just getting us very close to all-time highs. So if we do get any 4-hourly setups, it will be lovely. And there it is. There is the 4-hourly setup. So this looks already pretty good. That's the setup, right? That is looking like a very good setup. Now, of course, provided, of course, if the indices, the futures actually go higher, that usually tends to follow them. You can see this one is still kind of lacking the all-time high, so it's like a combination between Nasdaq and S&P, right? But of course, it looks pretty good for potential long. So that's it. We had, I think, one good trade. This here long was very nice on Wednesday here, and I think pretty much that's it. There was a short here on Monday, but then we flipped, and then there is a long here on Wednesday, but Mondays I don't trade them. So yeah, for next week, longs into all-time highs on DAX to me look pretty good. This forward zone together, of course, with this very big kind of demand zone, right, is going to be a very big support. So I'm looking to see price finding support from here and tapping us into all-time highs. All right, Fanatics, full circle back. The DXY is overall bullish so far, but it's starting to have a little bit too much zones, okay? Daily bullish, monthly bearish, weekly bullish, weekly reactionary to the left, forward time frame consolidation. I still find it hard to really build a clear bias. We had this very nice long move, but there was only one day that actually provided. So far, again, if you're finding it hard to find any trades, if you are having a week of without trading or even 2 weeks without trading, you actually have to congratulate yourself because you're protecting your capital and you're waiting for the high probability conditions when they come in. So I'm more bullish on the DXY, but it really depends on how it's going to work with that daily zone. Euro USD, I am macro more bearish, even based on fundamentals. We're having a daily zone and we're having a weekly zone. The main question is, where are we going to go to short from? So of course, we have to observe first the daily, because that is the first barrier that could push price. And if the daily fails, then we look for the weekly, which could be a trade by itself. Same for GU, which was extremely choppy this week. Are we going to take liquidity and then pull back? Are we going to pull back and then potentially take liquidity? That is what we have to observe. Aussie dollar, super not clear, I would say. Still staying inside that weekly. The daily time frame just rocketed lower and then it started to consolidate for pretty much the last 4 days. Is it going to pop higher into these daily zones and then push lower? Let's see. At the same time, NZUSD looks a lot more bearish than the Aussie dollar, already having a weekly bearish imbalance, already taking out the weekly liquidity here. So we're having right now a daily zone to work with. And if this daily zone doesn't push price lower, then still we can look for the weekly. So again, that is the kind of the overall play we have this week with this daily and the weekly zones. Gold looks very bullish as well. I would wait for gold to form a daily bullish imbalance right now to then guide me into all-time highs. It looks pretty good, not gonna lie. Looks very good for longs. USD also looks good for longs, but we really have to wait and see, is it gonna pull back into that weekly zone? Or is it going to maybe work from that forward zone? Or is it going to start bringing bullish order flow towards that monthly zone above? UJ is gonna need a little bit of time, in all honesty, to see what it's gonna do from this precise situation right now. EJ and GJ, absolute chop. I could say I'm over the long bias into, for example, on GJ towards that high and on EJ towards that monthly imbalance, but I'm absolutely not gonna trade them. And then of course we get into the indices, which are overall quite bullish. ES taking all-time highs. We're having forward zones to work with. Nasdaq is the least strong of them, right? So I would be a little bit more careful with that one. Preferably, like, I would like to long a little bit more the S&P because it definitely looks a little bit more stronger. You can see it's pushing higher very nicely. Well, they pushed higher the same manner, but the thing is, ES took all-time highs and it's currently very high, while Nasdaq is still struggling and protecting these highs. I don't know why. So again, let's see what happens this week. US 30 also super bullish, also can be looking for longs, and also DAX has a very nice long setup coming into next week. Let's see if it plays out. So with that being said, we're going to conclude this weekly outlook and setups. Let me know if you took any trades this week. Let me know what is your favorite setup for next week. Let me know what kind of pairs you're looking for. Looking forward to hear from you in the comments, and I'm going to talk to you next week.